Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Zach. Let me show you around my new shop. Special thanks to these companies for being long-term partners of this channel. So the thing about my new shop right now is that I can't actually pull a vehicle into it. So unfortunately, the shop is laid out in a way that it is purely a project space. I'm hoping in the future to take out a wall so that I can actually turn this into a space where I can pull a vehicle in. But for the time being, it's just turned into a project space. The other thing that you might notice right now is that it is really messy. And this is partially, just to show the raw side of starting like a new shop like this. But it's also to maybe get some suggestions and feedback from all of you. Unfortunately, I don't have all of the infrastructure in here set up to start organizing things, but that also means that I've got a clean slate. So I'm trying to figure out how to lay it out in a way that is meaningful and helpful, and also a way that I can really, refine the space. So my question to all of you is that, I do a lot of DIY projects, but they don't always seem to hit the algorithm in the same way as other videos. And so my question becomes, do you like to see more of the product reviews, or do you like to see more of my DIY projects? Because I can kind of go either way, and I can also design the space in a way that helps me film one or the other more. So this is where you should leave a comment down below what you enjoy and what you watch more frequently. So yeah, but come on in. I'm going to show you around some of the other spaces. So the shop has a lot of stuff in it right now, and it has some prior features and some setup. Kind of playing around with what I like and with what I don't like. So one of the awesome things is there's actually gas ran to the shop. So we've got this old heater here, and all the walls are insulated. So once I replace this heater, we could heat this shop and use it in the winter. Right now, this really old heater doesn't work. So unfortunately, no heat at the moment, but that's okay. We don't need heat in the summer here in Minnesota. It still gets plenty hot. And that's why I actually want to talk to you about today's video sponsor, NewAir. Now I want to talk to you a little bit more about NewAir, and particularly this evaporative fan that they were willing to send me. And one thing that I really like about this fan is it's a great shop fan. So they make these, a lot of people use them indoors. I kind of want to recommend it for another use. So what this does is, if we spin it around, so what you do is you fill the back with water. We've got this big water container here, and then the water is ran through this absorbing pad. And the cool thing is what it allows you to do is it allows you to put water into the air. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, well, what if I live in Florida? That's just gonna add more humidity to the air. It's already very humid here. Why would I do that? Well, that is true. In some situations, this is not the best approach because it does add water to the air. However, the cool thing is you can just use it as a normal fan if you don't want to use the water humidifying features of it. But what I really like is it's a fan that's on a stand as well. So you've got the fan, a few feet off the ground. It helps to move air throughout the space. Another thing that I think is really nice is in the winter time, I think shops can get quite dry. A lot of winter weather dries out everything. So this will be a nice thing I can add that will keep the shop also a little bit more humidified in the winter. And honestly, there's like different trains of thought here, but I personally think this is like a cheap way for you to keep your garage space cool without like having a fully air-conditioned garage space. So this isn't too expensive. I'm gonna have a discount code and everything linked down below. I think it's a super economical way to keep your garage space a little bit cooler. And I have it set up out here just so that it's a nice way that I can stay cool in the shop in the summertime. And when I'm filming stuff, especially at my top-down system, it's keeping me a little bit more comfortable. So just to talk a little bit more about the features, on the top here, we've got like 6 different buttons. We've got the on button, which also is how we change the speed of the fan. So we've got 3 different modes, which is nice if you want it to be, blasting versus just a slow, movement of air. And then if I click the cool/humidify button, this is where it will actually start to use that water and then push that water into the air. What's actually kind of impressive is it feels cooler when you put your hand in front of the fan. So while it may not seem like it does anything, it's humidifying the air a bit, and it's also a little bit cooler than just like putting your hand in front of a normal fan. So, and especially if you live like on the West Coast or even in the mountains, a lot of those areas are really dry climates. Something like this is probably gonna work awesome for you. I'll toss this map up on the screen right now that just shows like drier versus more humid climates. This is definitely gonna be something more advantageous in a drier climate, but I still think there's probably some helpful benefits even in a humid climate. But so that right now, it's got the cooling mode turned on and it's on fan speed low, just so you don't hear it all through my mic. So just to show you some of the mode buttons, again on the top, we've got the on off button, the cool and humidify, and then we have a mode button. This is to change between, I think it's like natural mode and night mode or something. And then there's a timer, so you can set a different timing for number of hours, I think up to 7.5 hours. And then swing, and swing allows you to spin the front of the fan. So this spins, which creates like a cyclone effect. Apparently it will direct the air to be a little bit more targeted. It also just looks kind of futuristic and cool in my opinion. But the timer, like I said, you can set I think up to 7.5 hours. Then the mode is like, I think natural versus sleep, like it'll go from high to medium to low. There's just some different ways in which you can program how the fan speeds work and the timing. And I've not really used much of the modes, but you can program it a little bit more. And the manual walks through this a little bit more in detail. But definitely I just use like the different speeds, and then I typically keep the cyclone on. And it's worked really well to keep the space cool and to keep me cool while working out in the shop. One thing that's also kind of interesting is you'll notice that this is a little display right here, but what I've found is there's 3 different settings when you are just running it as a fan, but if you turn on the cooling, humidifying, there's only 2 fan speeds that I've been able to kind of test out, and they've been more than enough. But for those of you that wouldn't even use the cooling feature, I think you can tap into even more fan. So those are just a little closer look at some of these features. So, and in addition to having all these buttons like on the top of the fan, it does come with this slick little remote. It's nothing fancy, but it's handy to have if this fan is across the shop, you know, being able to turn it on remotely. It's pretty nice. So we've got an on and off button, and we can even change the speeds. And then some of those same features are also on the remote, like timer, swing, the mode, and then turning on like the cooler / humidifier mode. So not that you necessarily need a remote, but it's handy to have it. So I really like this fan. It's been super handy to just have sitting at the shop and keeping me cool. So I just wanted to do a little shout out and explain kind of some of the features of this fan, because it's been pretty handy, honestly, just having it around the shop. So maybe this is something that you can add to your shop and keep yourself a little bit cooler when you're working on your rig or just working on house projects. So thank you, NewAir, for sponsoring this video. I want to show you guys around the rest of the shop. So as many of you have probably seen already in some of my videos, this has kind of been my workstation. This is where I tinker around with brackets. This is where I've filmed some of my top-down video for assembling different modifications. This has kind of been my desk within the shop. So I like this setup so far. I think maybe it could be tweaked a little bit. Definitely could be cleaned up, but it's been pretty handy. I've also found that this stuff is pretty handy, but I don't know, like hanging stuff on it works only so. If any of you out there have like some really helpful hooks that are on Amazon or something that I could use on these types of boards, that'd be super helpful. I've just found that like it's helpful to hang certain tools and things like that, but other than that, I don't know if there's really a whole lot of other benefits to it. I have a fair amount of this wall hanging space, like some here, some over on that side of the shop, but I just don't know if it's really worth keeping it around. You know, like I said, at some point I'd like to knock down a wall and being able to pull another car in here. but I just don't know. For now, this has worked okay, and maybe I'll change it, maybe I won't. This is my shop over here. We've just got more shelving and storage. I try to keep kind of an area where I store my future mods and also just ongoing projects. Got some diode lights and some other stuff that we're gonna be throwing on the Land Cruiser, and just some different projects that are probably coming to the channel. So that's where I've been storing some of this stuff. But again, man, my organization is just terrible because I have nowhere to put stuff. And so if you have a good shelving system or something that you recommend, comment that down below. I'm trying to figure out a good way to organize all this stuff. Similarly, right over here, I've got like a bunch of my jack stands, stuff like that. And I haven't found a really good way to organize all this stuff, and all I've seen is like what's on Home Depot's website. So if you've got any good suggestions, or you've gone through a couple of iterations in your shop and you've got some good feedback for me, you know, drop that down below. I'm kind of planning all this out right now. So, and maybe you recognize this, maybe you don't, but this was the little workbench that I had in my old studio space, so to speak. And this thing has actually been super helpful. It's held a lot of like different zip ties, electrical equipment, all sorts of stuff that I do with my installs on the 4Runner. But the struggle here is this shop is not just for like working on vehicles. I store all of like the house equipment stuff I have, all my other tools, any sort of spray paint, all kinds of stuff like that. So this shop space needs to be able to double not only as studio space, but also space to just store all of my random tools and stuff I've accumulated for, you know, living spaces in addition to vehicles. So that's kind of how I've laid out the shop so far. Like I've got some space where I store shovels and other like outdoor yard equipment. And then I've got my workbench here. I've got a big top-down filming setup over there where I store some other tools. I charge some batteries over there. I've got a bunch of nuts and bolts and other old modifications I'm trying to figure out how to organize well. I've got a bunch of hardware like screws, deck screws, all that sort of stuff. So especially a lot of you other DIY guys out there where you've got a pretty dialed in garage because you're doing so many different types of projects. You know, this is kind of where I'm calling on you to have some suggestions. And I also just want to show this so that I can be able to look back and kind of compare this to what the future shop will look like, because this is going to really go through a complete transformation. So I just wanted to show it all to you. The last thing is, like, I think a lot of people will have some sort of big table in the middle. Well, right now my table is actually my rooftop tent. If we turn this a little bit here, I'll stand in the back. We've got some shop lights. We've got all kinds of different stuff here in the middle, but I'm storing rims, all kinds of things. But this has got a bunch of rooftop tent materials, fabric, all kinds of stuff I've been using to test fit and design my rooftop tent. Project's at a little bit of a standstill, but that's where I've had this set up to kind of work on, and hopefully I can make some more progress on it very soon. So this is the shop space. Like I've been saying, this is a pretty raw video. It's not trying to doctor up, edit, really cleanly show you a super, super cool, you know, expensive shop space that is why I'm able to do all the DIY projects that I do. I've got a, you know, normal person amount of tools. So I just want to show you this shop space because, you know, I'm not necessarily doing anything super fancy or out of the ordinary. I haven't poured thousands of dollars into my shop space, and I'm really hoping to change this space so that it's a productive space that looks nice, that I'm proud to work in. But, you know, I just want to kind of show you all where I'm at and what some of my plans are for the future, and hopefully get some feedback from all of you so that you can maybe help me design this space to create the best content that I can here on YouTube, and just keep making content that you all find interesting and fun to watch. So thank you so much to all of you who've supported me in the channel. You know, having this space has come in part through that support, and it means a lot that you all continue to want to watch my videos. So thank you so much for the support. As always, there's going to be weekly content coming, and I'm looking forward to the future directions that the shop takes. So that being said, thank you so much for watching. Like always, I appreciate the support, and I will catch you all in the next video.